Right, hello everybody. Keep your noise down, girl. Alright, so I think what we're going to do today in this video is we're going to work on the arms, get these sculpted up a little, and just see where we end up with it. There's some other bits I need to consider as well, like the muscle in the arms here. Just some bits that I've added on so that I can add to the mass to the arm and just to make it a little bit easier. So we've got some decent reference as well. So the bicep kind of tucks underneath here. The shoulder will kind of come over the top of that. Okay. Okay, let's add some muscle. So if the shoulder is going to come up around here, then that's going to kind of go under there. So let's push that so it looks like it's going under the arm there somewhere at least. We can work on this a bit more as we go. I'm just like, more than anything, this is it's just meant to be an idea or a guide, sort of roughly, to where the muscle should lay. Let's get rid of that and we'll add a new one. So we can scale this one back down because this one was only pumped up like that because she's flexing that arm. So we can slim this one down and sort of like get it to try and follow the body's contours a little better. So these might be sculpted down a little bit because they might be a little large. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, they might be sculpted down a tiny bit. I think these forearms need to be thickened up a little as well, but we'll get to that. So I'm just having a little look around it to make sure that everything kind of looks like it will work. I think it's going to be alright. I might slide that hand over just a tiny bit. I don't know if I can rotate it. So let's put the swords back on. So I might just move this sword a tiny bit just to give us a little space between the thumb and the hilt of the sword. So I'm just trying to make sure that, again, like, I don't want it clipping through this little finger here, but I also want it to feel like she's got it in her hand properly, which I think that works. Let's check the other sword, and then I think what we'll do is we'll merge the arms and start doing a sculpt on them. See where I've reposed the hand a little, the sword's moved out a little tiny bit. So let's fix that. Okay, so let's put the legs back on, and just going to pop the legs back on and see how the overall pose is working. Okay, I'm still pretty happy with that. I'm not worried about this because, to be quite honest, I'm considering doing 2B's outfit but without the skirt part of it, because that's one of the skins in the game. So I think you can have the same outfit, but the skirt part's gone, so it's just the leotard part, which I think will show the sculpt a lot nicer. Okay, right, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So like I said, this sword I'm not worried about what the skirt's going to be doing, because although there's a skirt in the reference image, we're going to be doing a different outfit on her, because yeah, like I said, she's got this outfit that we'll be making, but it's a so what I'm doing at the moment, or what I'm considering, is leaving the hands separate, so that if I need to, I can make any adjustments, minor adjustments on the hands. Let's do that. Actually, yeah, let's do it. Actually, no, do you know what? In for a penny. Let's go. I'm going to merge these. So I'm going to merge one whole arm, merge the other arm, and then we're going to sculpt them up one at a time. So let's go to the multi-res tool. Voxel remesh. Sorry, not the multi-res, the voxel remesh. Oh. So I wanted to just make sure that we haven't lost too much. Might just give that a slightly higher mesh, because I mean we can reduce it. It's just as easy as we can sculpt it up. I mean, probably easier. Yeah, so the fingertips still look kind of okay. So we'll probably go with that. Right, let's go ahead and merge the other arm. Okay. Yeah, alright, so let's start with this arm, because I think it would be nice to do I can time-lapse this one, because this one's the one with all the contact on it and stuff like that, so I can sculpt up this arm. I'm not 100% certain if that's what I'm going to do yet, but at the moment the plan is sculpt this arm, time-lapse this one, but we will see. Turn symmetry off because we don't need that anymore. Let's actually drop the resolution a bit so that we can make some significant changes as we smooth. So I think this is definitely a bit too much muscle on the front, so we can smooth that down. And I probably want to add like some meat under here, because like again, when the arm's pressed against the body like that, there's a significant amount of like of skin and muscle and fat that gets moved away, moved out of the way. So also we've got, I'm going to move to get these legs out of the way here, so boom, right thigh can go. So here, for example, if you look on the reference, it dips in. So we've got the muscle here, then it just sort of dips in where the muscle goes under, and then these muscles here come around and over the top, right? So let's carve into that and get that looking a bit better. So there we've got that sort of dip here in between the arms where the muscle comes in. So I don't think the elbow's in too bad of a spot. I just let's move this over a tiny bit as well, because we've got a lot of it seems to be like all jumping this way a tiny bit, so that wouldn't be as severe of a transition between that muscle and the back here. Oh, I think we will bring some of it back in. But it just doesn't need to be as severe as what we had. So I think we want to, let's mark the elbow out. And we've got this muscle here that kind of comes down and around on the inside of the arm. So it kind of comes and then around and then down here. Just trying to have a, so she's holding her sword like that. So this muscle here kind of comes down and connects to there on the underside here. So all of this muscle here is going to come down and connect to that. And then this muscle on the outside is going to come and connect on the underside here. So that's all going to come and connect down to sort of like there somewhere. Now we've got this muscle and bone. So the bone underneath twists out because she's got like that. She's like this. So this bone's going to twist over. Between here and here, this is all going to sort of come down and create that sort of crease here between the wrist. Yeah, so this is going to come from here and go back up over the arm. So boom, and then over. This is actually going to be quite a tricky little arm sculpt, I think. So I'm probably going to quickly stop the video, reset that, and then just continue and see where we are. Okay, so I'll be back momentarily. I'm going to stop this, reset the camera. Okay, so we are back. I've just had a look at my own arm, and we're not too far off. The one thing that I did notice while checking out my own arms is that this shape here that comes around. So what we'll probably do is we'll quickly cut in some shapes. So that comes around there. And then this part will come round and under here. So this part is going to come down and connect to the bottom of the wrist here. And then what you end up with is, because this is all tense here, as you can see on this sort of sculpt here, but we've got it twisted round a lot more than that reference up there. So I think we'll mark in this bone down here so that we know where that's got to go. Because that connects, yeah, and this is all going to come down here and connect underneath here. So we've probably got too much mesh going on there. The wrist is incredibly thin, that I'm just noticing. And some of that will be lead round into the palm. So let's fill this gap in here again. So that we can start laying out some of the anatomy in the hand. So there's going to be, here we go, we're quite low here. There's not much going on in this in the hand for weight and muscle. So there was a lot of areas there in the hand just now that were really throwing me off, was particularly with the arm there. So I think we needed to fill some of this out and get this hand sort of plumped back out again. And I also now think that this is in the wrong place. So that's probably going to be more like about here. So now the wrist doesn't look as flimsy. We're probably in a better position. So the one thing I did notice when looking at my own arm is that this is probably too far forward for a start, because the whole thing's twisting. So let's go back and mark in some more. So this bone is going to come up here and connect to the arm. There's another bone that goes in here and connects to here, but that's going to probably be underneath some of this muscle. And I think we can let's smooth some of this out a little. So there is like a bunch of muscles in here, and the thing is as well, right, like it might look a little odd right now, but like when I just looked at my arm, when I just looked at my arm, it felt really, it looked really kind of thin in some places. So I'm feeling my own arm to find out where the knuckles are on the elbow there. So there's like a bit that sticks up here on this side. So again, we're twisting out, so it's going to flatten the whole thing. It's going to unrotate the whole thing. So this is kind of this bone, and this will be this bone here. And then in here we'll have some muscle definition cut in. And that kind of muscle here will come down, and that muscle will come down and over the top. Oh, come on, why is it not switching? There we go. So this muscle here will kind of come down and over the top of all of that. There. This is going to be the same for here. This is all going to come down there and around over the top of that. Okay, I mean, it's getting there. It's getting there. Make sure that we've got that bone there nicely defined. So we could probably add a little more up here. We got the shoulder that kind of is going to come around here like this. So this kind of is going to lean, it's going to be a little bit more to the front, because this bicep is going to cut in underneath. And if you look at the outside here, yeah, so the back of it kind of comes over and over the back here, kind of come back over. I don't know what this muscle here is called. It's labelled on here somewhere. The triceps, yeah. So it's going to, this shoulder muscle here is going to come over the triceps and sort of like come tuck in under here. So then this is going to kind of come down and disappear into there. And then we'll have a little bit of muscle in there. So I think we can smooth some of this out. And hopefully it's going to, as long as we don't press really hard and like remove a bunch of the detail that we've just put in, that should start to look a bit like an arm. That's the plan anyway. So the idea being, when we're doing this type of thing, is that we want to get like a rough anatomy in, or at least a placement of some of the muscle structure underneath, and you can see it's starting to come together now, because we're not The one thing that I will say is you don't want to smooth away too much of the detail that you've put in, right? And I think as long as you're not too aggressive with the pen, you should be alright. You should be able to get keep some of the detail in there. So like, I'm not sure about here, what's going on here. I think we'll cut back in some of the muscle definition around here. Because I want it to be clearly defined. So I know it looks a bit weird here, but like that's because we've got the body pressing against this. So all of this here is going to look a bit better once we get the body sculpt, the arms attached to the body, and we get that body sculpted in. So I'm sorry if I keep going a bit quiet. I'm just trying to make sure that I've got the right what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just trying to make sure that everything kind of looks usable. So I feel like here, for example, look, that's a bit harsh of a transition here. So I think what we need really is to start bringing the hand up, the back of the hand up, to soften that transition a little. It's looking better. I'm not too mad at it. Obviously we're a ways from being done yet, but I think as a starting point at least. Yeah, as a starting point at least is pretty good. Yeah, so I mean, generally it's quite a funny position. I didn't really think about it too much, but it's quite a funny position to put your arm in. In general, it's quite a weird position to have your arm in. There aren't many times or moments where you would probably want your arm twisted around this far. I might be wrong, potentially, but I don't really see anybody wanting to put their hand in that position really on a regular basis. It's a really weird position in terms of where everything else is on the body. It's a really weird position. So that's not too bad so far. We can see it's got some decent definition. She looks strong, you know, like she doesn't look skinny and weak like she did originally. So she looks strong enough to hold the blades. I don't know what that was. Hopefully nothing bad. I mean, it's not terrible. I feel like this here is we've slightly lost some of that definition of that bone that comes from here. Oh, so the bone that kind of comes through here, we've lost a little bit of that. Yeah, you can see it's sunken in a little there, so I think if we start to bring that back up a little on this edge here where it's most visible. Yeah, that already looks a little better. I also think that there's a significant amount of muscle inside the arm, like particularly up the forearm. That's probably pretty easy to miss. Okay, I mean, I'm not too mad at that. So another thing to think about as well, right? I don't think I want to go too mad, because at the end of the day, she is going to be wearing gloves as well. But that's not to say that I don't want to do a relatively okay anatomy sculpt, because yeah, I mean, you're not watching this to be like, oh, that's fine, she's wearing gloves, don't worry about it. I'm sure that's not why people are watching. So a lot of what I'm doing is kind of looking around the sculpt that I'm doing, and just seeing how the light affects it, so that I can see the clearly defined shadows and sections of the muscles that I think need to be visible, right? So I think overall that's not bad. So what are we at? 20 minutes. Let's spend a few minutes filling in some of the gaps around the hand. Excuse me. And then we'll reset the video. I should probably go and feed my poochie in a bit as well. What's the time? It's like gone 3 o'clock. So what I'll do, we'll definitely finish this, filling out some of these gaps and spaces around the hand, and then we'll, I'll go and feed my pooch. You can probably hear her sneezing and snorting and kicking up a fuss. She's over there kicking up a fuss on the floor because she wants feeding. I'm coming, bro. Hold your horses. So there's probably some stuff I should have checked before merging all of this. Like that finger was barely connected, so I should have probably checked that. And also now we've got this thumb connected here where I've merged it, which I didn't really want. So we'll probably trim away some of that, just so that we've got a gap. Do you know what, actually we won't do that. We'll leave the gap. We'll leave it connected. So I think we'll so her hand looks a bit chonky, but again we haven't done any real sculpting on that yet. Okay, so I'm going to reset the video. We'll go and feed my doggy, and then we'll come back and do a hand sculpt. But again, like when we do the hand sculpt, it's not going to be super detailed, loads of like, we're not going to put the fingernails on it because she is going to be wearing gloves. So I don't want to waste time sculpting stuff that we're never going to see. But it does, like I said, need to be anatomically correct at least. So yeah, we'll leave this here for now, and then we'll come back once I fed my poochie and do the hand sculpt. Okay, I'll be back momentarily. Right, let's get this hand sculpted up, and then we'll sculpt the other arm up another day. So where were we? I think what I want to do is give myself a little bit more geometry to play with on the hands. No, actually we don't need it yet. So let's continue. Just sculpting out these hands. Let's actually put it on Dynamesh as well. So one of the reasons I like using Dynamesh is because yeah, it as you're meshing it will add geometry there, so you get less stretching and stuff like that of the polys. So if you see there, if you notice, it's like it's closing the gaps. So what we're doing at the moment, we're closing the gaps up first of all, and we're putting the knuckles in so that we've got like clearly defined hand knuckles geometry, right? Because at the moment they all look a little bit rounded, so we can probably fix some of that now. So yeah, like you don't want the knuckles to look rounded off, because there's actually like there's a reasonable dip that comes in like across the back of the knuckle there, across the front of the knuckle. Stop! Don't start barking, girl. Okay, so I think we're gonna hide some of this hide some of the fingers, because I want to get in here and plump some of this out, because I feel like it's making the hand look thin near the fingers. So I think we want to come in here and plump some of this out a little. Looks a little like a cat paw. I think as well there's like a flap of skin that comes across the back, from underneath the thumb, from across the thumb to the underneath of here. So let's get back our fingies, and let's add, so it kind of comes from around here. Over to the front of the hand. And then we end up with like a little divot sort of just behind it here. So here, around this part here, is not quite plumped out the way that I'd like it. Don't start barking, girl. So also, like this part of the hand here, it looks a little flat, so there's actually like a decent pad of muscle that gets in under here. So I think part of the issue we're having with the hand here is that it is yeah, so we'd have a bit more like definition here across the top of from this first knuckle here, and then this would probably flatten out a little more in here. Okay, so I think we are going to need a bit more geometry. So rather than remesh the whole arm, I'm going to crank this up, turn the oh wait, that's not what I want. If I'm holding the smooth button down, I'm going to turn the intensity of that right down, and all I'm looking to do, I'll show you, is if I go, if I hold the smooth function for a start and then just go over it without any you know, pressure on the brush, we can just add we can just add some geometry to it, and that should give us a little more. Okay, so I do think this middle finger is kind of over a little bit too far. So it's creating a weird sort of gap between these three fingers. And I also think I want to Y. So I need to so what we're going to do now, we've got some mesh to play with. I'm going to mark out the actual knuckles and just start going from there. So we can start to see, like here for example, that probably needs a bit more. I'm sure I charged that up. 1 second. I don't think it's charged up properly. So this section, what you're looking at through here, might go a bit dark for a bit because I kind of want to finish this. Okay. Okay, that's just gonna have to stay off. For some reason it didn't charge while I was while I had my batteries on, my camera batteries on charge. I'm hoping that's still recording. Excuse me. So what I'm mostly looking to do at the moment is kind of shape the fingers up a little. I feel like the pinky is a little skinny. Let's shape these fingers a tiny bit more, and then maybe we'll do a small well, we probably won't actually. I was going to say we'll do some detailing on the hands, but like I said, the character's wearing gloves, so I don't think that we need to worry about that too much. Just trying to make sure that we've got enough meat on these bones to sort of progress a little bit more with the sculpture. So yeah, compared to like the thumb and the rest of the hand, the pinky was definitely looking a little yeah, the pinky was definitely looking a little worn out, a little thin, just a little. I mean, we don't really need to worry about this too much, because we're not really going to see it. Like I said, this is just more plotting points, so that I can a little bit more easily sort of figure out where certain things are supposed to go, you know. So like this finger here, for example, was definitely a bit thin there. So it needs plumping out a little around here. Let's hide the rest of that hand for a minute. Oh. Just so we can see the inside of the fingers a little more clearly. So let's now we've done that, we can see that like some of the parts that are a bit thinner, like the here for example, that's definitely too thin, and maybe down here. maybe this digit here as well, still on this side, is a little bit thin. Yeah, like here you can see. Okay, so we've got some rough layout of the fingers. I still think this knuckle here is a bit weird. Okay, so this would come up over the top of this one. So I'm just looking at my own hands to see roughly where I need this one kind of comes out there as well. And then this one will go over the top of that one. So yeah, I'm just looking for areas where I can, so like here for example. So what am I trying to say? I'm looking for like parts of it that I can just quickly lay in that will make it look a bit like well, a bit more like it's an actual finger creasing the right way and stuff like that. I do think that that middle knuckle is now really quite low looking. Alright, let's give it a bit of a smooth. So I've taken a bit too much off that knuckle there, so I want to bring that back up to a nice point. We'll do this side too. And I think it's probably going to be the same with this knuckle here. And I think this main index knuckle has gone really low, so okay. So I think we'll what time have we got? 20 more minutes. Oh, grab the inside of the hand instead of the actual finger. So yeah, I will probably actually sculpt the other arm, you know, because it's a different position, and it'd be nice to you know, for anyone that's like looking to use this video as not necessarily a study aid, but just a look at how someone might do the arms. We'll probably sculpt the other arm, I think. Yeah, so that's like in a really weird position, so we'll move that, and then we'll try and bring this back up a little. I mean, it's so far it's not the best hand that I've ever sculpted, but it's like, it's a process, so you know, it might not look great straight away, but it is a process. So I think once we've sort of got some more of this pinky in, I'll stop the video because it's gonna cut. That's gonna cut off any second now. So let's go ahead. I don't know. Something's going on weird here, and I'm not sure what it is. Looks a little better. Okay, so we'll stop this real quick. We'll reset the camera and we'll finish this hand off, and then I'll probably come back tomorrow or later and start the sculpt for the other side. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so let's go ahead and try and finish this hand. At least get it looking relatively okay within the next 20 minutes, and then I'm gonna shut it down for the day, charge that and charge that, because yeah, nothing's staying lit, and I'm struggling to see now as well. So I'm just so again, because it's difficult to keep talking and like try and keep everybody on up to date on what I'm actually doing, but like what I'm realistically doing here is filling out the forms so that they at least look like fingers, because earlier they were very rounded off and they just looked very strange. So let's actually move this pinky out of the way. So now we can see the inside of this finger a little bit more clearly. I don't think this is too bad of a size, like width wise or thickness wise this way. So I think we'll just kind of work on getting the right shapes and get the knuckles in looking, get the knuckles looking alright. So here, for example, this is a weird shape here. And I'm not a fan of weird shapes. So I'm moving around and I'm like here, I'm looking for like divots and points that just drops in, and moving around it just to find anywhere that might look a bit strange. So just keep moving around it, and if you're looking at a part of it and going, why does it look weird? It's probably because it is weird. Like I said, I've said this in a previous video, but like when I first attempted sculpting many moons ago, somebody told me, they were trying to help me, and I didn't realise at the time. I just thought they were being an a-hole. But it turns out they were 100% right. I just couldn't see. I couldn't see past my own ego, if you want. But yeah, this person, like I showed them the work I was doing, right? They were trying to help me out. They were like, oh, why don't you try sculpting this? And I started sculpting this character. And again, I was new to ZBrush at the time. But I think what this person was trying to get me to see was that it's not necessarily the tool you're using, right? You can know everything about a tool and still produce something bad. So he was trying to get me to look at my work analytically and critically as well. And at the time, I was like, I'm doing everything you're telling me. Why? What's your problem? Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, honestly, it looked bad. It looked bad. I think he knew it. I knew it. But he was trying to get me to look at the work and go, without him literally pointing at it and going, this is what's wrong with it. He was trying to get me to look at it and go, that's what's wrong with it. And one of the hardest things, I think, for a lot of artists is getting past that initial ego that you've got, especially if you've been in an environment like I came out of uni. And I'd been in an environment where I was the only animator. I was the only one doing animation. Everyone else was trying other stuff, right? Sculpting or modeling or whatever it might be. So I was the only one trying animation. And I'd come from an environment where, because I was the only one doing it, all I'd had was praise. So I'd come into this place and this guy's trying to help me, and I'm like, he doesn't like me. But it's not the truth. So I guess what I'm saying is that there will be times in all of anybody that's watching or anybody that's trying to get into 3D, be it sculpting, animation, whatever it might be, there'll be times when someone will be trying to offer you help, and it will genuinely feel like they don't like you. But the truth is if someone's being brutally honest with you and telling you why your work looks bad, that person is trying to help you, right? I mean, I get that there are probably better ways to do it, but again, not everybody has the time to stroke your ego, right? So, you know, like, the person that's blunt with you is going to be more helpful and have more of an impact on your work than the person that's saying, that's great, let's put it on the fridge. Right? So yeah, I would rather, and especially now that I know what I know, the more that I know, I should say, now I value that feedback more, even though it hurts, and I'm not going to lie, it hurts getting told something doesn't look right, but I value that feedback more than, you know, just my peers going, oh, you're so amazing, dude, because, you know, I'm not, I'm just average. I'm kind of average, bro. But the, you know, the getting that in your head as well, like being ready to understand your kind of place in the industry as well. You know, like we're not all. And here's the sad thing, guys and girls: most of us ain't gonna go to Pixar. Most of us ain't gonna go and work for Disney. So get used to it. But yeah, like I was saying, the friend that I consider him a friend now. We haven't spoken in a while, but he was trying to help me. He was trying to show me where I was going wrong, why my stuff was looking weird, and like I said, at the time I was very much bruised on the ego. He got me right in the ego. But he was 100% right. Like the whole thing was weird. He said, you know, he made a point at one stage, and again, it was a little confusing. I'm not going to say that he's completely innocent of making me feel bad, but there was a moment, for example, where he was talking about the fact that you don't have to sculpt with symmetry on, and that's 100% true. But it was a games environment, so it would have made sense to put it in a T-pose, but then we were also doing it where the character had really warped kind of features, right? So trying to do something in a T-pose and make it symmetrical when the character itself is so non-symmetrical was a challenging thing. So on top of the fact that I didn't really know what I was doing, even anatomy-wise or even with the software, I was trying to sculpt something that was completely outside of my wheelhouse. I'd never attempted a monster-type physique before. Never really had I attempted sculpting. Okay, so my girlfriend's back. Never really tried sculpting anything up to that point, so yeah, it's just a case of, you know, understanding when someone's trying to help you and when someone's just being an a-hole. Okay. You can come in, Laura. Okay, so what I think I'll do is I'll finish this little section here, and then I'll jump back in again a bit later maybe and record some more, because my girlfriend's not shush though, there we go, that's why. My girlfriend's not a huge fan of being on camera at all, and the dog's gonna absolutely just bark her head off, so we'll call it here for now. That's not bad, it's not looking too bad, and I'll come back and sculpt some more later on or tomorrow. So yeah, to you it'll be just a moment, and to me it'll be a whole day. I forgot my remote. Okay, right. So where were we? We were finishing up the hand. Just having a little look around it to sort of see if there's anything we can do to so I think maybe we can move the sword a tiny bit. I mean, again, she's going to be wearing gloves, so I don't really want to go too mad. So yeah, okay. Looking a little it's looking a little rounded there. Oh. I think we can, yeah. Oh. Let's just move that out a tiny piece. That's not bad. Okay, so I think what we'll do, we'll start sculpting this arm, and then we'll start once this arm's sculpted, we'll start adding some of the fat that's going to be bunched up in places and things like that, and just start moving the flesh around a little to yeah, we'll sculpt this together as well, and just start making it look nice. Yeah, and we need to thicken this arm up a little piece here as well. Alright, let's start. Yeah, let's make a start and try and pick out some areas that we know are where they're gonna be. So the elbow here, for example, we'll plot that out. So because this one's twisted over, it's going to come from across there to this side of the arm here. So there'll be from this point of the wrist, it'll go over So it kind of twists over the top of it a little. If you can, don't know if you can see that. I'm going to need a minute. I'll be back in a bit. Right. That's a bit better. I was getting a headache, so I had to go and shut my eyes for 10 minutes. And that does feel a bit better, to be fair. So, right, where were we? We were marking out points on the elbow, on the arm, and the elbow. So I think we want, that's one of our markers there. It's very indicative of the area I live. Police signs. Hopefully no one's been hurt. So there's some of our markers. So that's going to kind of, this side, so it's going to, this muscle's going to come through here. Let's pull out a bit from around the outside, and instead of going across here too far, we're going to come in here. So there's like, we'll carve in some of the actual muscle positions in a little bit. Excuse me. So I think we're gonna quickly cut in some of these shapes here that we're seeing on the arm. So we've got the bicep here, which means that that's coming in, that's going to go over the top of the bicep. So that will lead onto the chest, hopefully. Then we've got an extra small muscle group here. With this, under the skin, this turns into like a V shape. You can see it under here. And here, look. So a V shape that kind of, we've put that in backwards. So you'll see the pecs are going to go over the top of the shoulder and over the top of the arm, which will probably end up coming out to about there somewhere. Then under the arm we'll have, that will sort of go into there. And there. And some of this muscle will sculpt in down here like that. And that's going to continue down there. So I'm trying to get it, see what it would look like under the skin. So this kind of group of muscles under here, under the skin, they end up looking like you see here, like a long string of muscle there. And then this kind of pops up over the top here. If you can see, it kind of pops around there. It's like teardrops going over one another. And I think we'll go with this, what's going on over here. So that will kind of come in there. We'll also mark in some some smaller markers on the elbow. So you see here, we've got the elbow, like the actual peak of the elbow here. And then a little bit further back and in, because it's because she's got her elbow bent. And you can see it on the other side here as well. There's like a smaller, you can see it there on the outside of that too. There's like another sort of knuckle. So I think let's start plumping some of this out. So we're gonna have to thicken the arm a little more. So I don't think it's quite thick enough, and there's a bit more meat under here in these areas too. And there's probably a little less under the arms. So if we nudge all this up, so let's go ahead and give it a little smooth. Oh, actually, let's turn. If it's not smoothing enough, you can probably turn down the resolution a little, and it should make it a little easier and faster to smooth these things out. Oh, that will explain. So with some of our positions a bit more clearly marked out, I want to smooth some of it away and then start working on what we would be seeing on the surface, right? So I've got some positions marked in. We're not going to go down to the hand yet because I want to get the arm sculpted. So we've got some positions marked in. We're gonna go ahead and, like I said, start trying to make it look like the skin over the top of it. So I would say the first thing that we need to look at is the thickness of the arm. So she should still have slim wrists because she is a girl, she is a woman. But we need some meat on the muscles, right? So that's the first thing you want to do, is thicken that out. I would also say that we are looking at, we need to get this elbow point, right? So the arm doesn't actually curve in like that. If you look at it, it kind of feels like it pops out, curves out a little bit. So it's kind of making the arm look a little misshapen. We'll probably have to plump the whole thing out a little more once we've got some of these plotted out. Also, I want to take some of this lump out here because we do actually want to have a defined, not defined, like super defined, but we need to know that that is connecting to there, right? So that bone, because it's rotating across, because we've got the rotation in the arm, in the wrist, is going across to there. And there's another bone in here on the inside that's going to come down and go to the top side. Right, so from, let's Let's get this thing in a position we can use. So from here, so this one goes across to the underside, and from here this one comes kind of across from here and goes round and over the top, but the bone goes through, right? But like you'll see up until about this point here, you'll see the bone. So that's some more landmarking done. But I think what we want to do now, start looking at the profile. So there's not enough meat here. I feel like this needs to go up more, and this needs to, we'll actually mask that off. So I feel like, well, let's sculpt it in. No, let's mask it off. So this is going to need to come up because there's no meat here, you see. And so we're going to start defining we need to round this muscle out a little, right? Let's get rid of some of that. Because now this is like, this needs to come up a little more here, look. See how it looks a little more neater, the actual crease. I also still think the arm needs to be thicker here on the bicep area, the upper arm area. It's not thick enough. She looks frail here. And here. So there'd be like a decent chunk of like fat where the arm is folded up on itself, right? And we just weren't seeing that. So I think I wanna here as well. We need to fill this area in a little. I also think that this is a little empty in here, and this would probably not be protruding as much because the arm's bent. This back will be stretched out, so this is probably sticking out too far anyway. So we could probably let's have a look, see. So I feel like this, a lot of this is already looking better. Like here's a bit shallow. So let's bring some of that back out. Because we'll sculpt in, we'll sculpt back in the crease in a little bit. I mean, the crease was like not bad, but the trouble is that it's so I'm having a look at some of the reference. The trouble is that it's distracting. So let's just pop some of that crease back in. And the other thing is, I feel like it's going across the arm in a funny way. That's a bit better. So the arm's getting there. We've still got this like weird shape here. But I feel like, again, because we've got the arm bent, we could actually so you'll get this kind of like shape here because the arm's bent, and that would actually be popping out a little more, I feel. And I think we'll do the same on this side. So, we're trying to create that squashed sort of like fatty areas. This bicep may be too defined, but we'll see. I don't hate it. So what I'm doing now is the same thing I've been doing with a lot of the other parts that we've been working on. I'm just looking around it and seeing how the light catches it to spot those parts that are shallow or that are sinking in. So another thing we could probably do here is add in some of the tendons, sort of like, well, not tendons, but markers to let us know where the wrist is going. And we could probably remove some of this. So I think some of the problem here is that we put a sphere on the inside of the wrist to make it easy to rotate. And it does, you know what I mean? Like, for the most part it does. Because the sphere's got the pivot point in the center, so it's just, you know, it's just easier. And with a sphere you can easily reset the pivot point and just go put this pivot back in the center, and boom, you've got like a nicely placed you know, a sort of pivoting area for your arms. So we're going to smooth some of this away and just try and get rid of some of the rough looking geometry. I feel like the whole arm, it needs to be moved this way a little, but the hand needs to stay. So let's see how that looks. I mean, yeah, that feels a little better. Yeah, for some reason the arm felt a bit strange. Okay, so let's go back to smoothing some of this out. We'll lower the resolution again because I wanna get rid of some of this overly defined tricep. So let's bring the body back and see where the shoulder goes. So the back part of the shoulder, so it goes over the top of the bicep here. The back part of the shoulder I feel like is gonna somewhere down there. Which means that some of that V shape is going to head into down here, look. And yeah, so I think we'll have to merge this, I think, before we can start to really think about what's going on here. I think maybe, just maybe, this whole arm's a little close. So let's grab the big sword and the shoulder, and we'll move that out a tiny bit. So I want it to move relative to my position, so I'm trying to line it up. I should have just moved it over really and brought it over here. Oh. So yeah, somewhere around there. I just want to move it out, the whole thing. But I don't think it's grabbed all of it. Oh, grabbing the wrong blooming sword. So let's cancel that. We want the small sword and the left shoulder. I wonder why it was all the way down here. It was like, it felt a bit far away. I was wondering what was going on. Like, did I have a random piece of geometry hidden somewhere? So yeah, I want to move the shoulder out just a little. Because I don't think that we were, yeah, there was too much of the shoulder hidden. Like, compared to the other shoulder, this shoulder looked really small. So let's actually move it out just a tiny bit more. That already feels better. Yeah, so we were having an issue there where the this shoulder was actually too far into the body, and there was just not enough arm to work with, right? So I think we're gonna, rather than resculpt a bunch of this, we'll drag that in. I think we've got a bit of an issue here where we had that over-defined tricep. And we need to fill in some of this gap here. Because again, it's not that this muscle isn't there, it's that it's stretched out the opposite way, right? So you can see it here. This has been pulled all the way down and stretched out and pulled it out flat here. So these muscles now will be extended because the arm's bent and all of these tendons here and in the white bit here have been stretched, pulling that muscle down. So it would be slightly less defined. We'd have this going down there like that. And as we can see from, where were we? This one here. the pectoral muscles will kind of like slide up under there. So this will probably change the position of some of that when we actually get to sculpting, when we get to merging it. 25 minutes. Okay, I'm going to save this and I'm going to quickly reset that because I haven't heard it click yet. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I think I've got enough battery on the light and the camera to do one more session before I have to charge everything up. So we were looking at some of this muscle, this shoulder area here, and I feel like this in here needs to be plumped. Oh, that needs to be plumped out a little tiny bit more. But that might be something we do when we come back to sculpt. So, when we merge it, sorry. So I think we're not in a bad position. I'm going to hide the head because I need to be able to see the shoulder. Yeah, because I want to be able to see the shoulder and where the clavicle should line up. So the clavicle is probably going to be roughly where it is, maybe a tiny bit higher, so maybe in here somewhere. Oh, so maybe the clavicle will end up just a slightly bit higher because the arm's quite far up, which will mean that we'll have, where are we? You can see it here in this one, I forget what that muscle's called. The trapezius, something like that. That the traps will come over, so you can see the shape of it here. If we cut in there, yeah, you'll see there. So this trap will probably be a little bit higher up. Oop. So it will that will join as well. So we won't worry about it too much for now. But yeah, trap will come across there. I feel like some of this shoulder is going to be in a bad spot. So some of this, here we go, this is what I'm getting wrong. Some of this here, this part here, when we merge this, some of that's going to end up being pectoral. So we need to mark out where the shoulder's going to come over the front of it. So you can see here, look, there's a lot of pectoral that goes up and underneath the shoulder muscle, which the shoulder muscle's coming over the top here. So I'm just having a little look around at all of the reference. So this one here, for example, it kind of comes up and over, which means this is going to be pectoral muscle in here. So that's going to be pec. And that's going to cut in to here. That'll end up being part of the pectorals. And the muscle for the shoulder will probably end up coming over around there, which means that somewhere in here is where we'll have the clavicle. Well, the clavicle will probably be about where it is. So that also now means that some of this shoulder is probably sticking out too far forward. So we've got pectorals up to there. Sorry, maybe even a bit further back. So pectorals kind of up to there. Shoulder muscle around here. Bicep around there. Various other muscles around here that connect down here. That all looks just a little odd to me. I can't really work out why. I think it's this shape here. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so I don't think that's looking too bad. So again, like, I know it looks like I'm sculpting stuff in only to smooth it away, but I'm just trying to hint at so actually some of this is going to come around there too, so let's mark some of that in. So from here, that's going to come around under the lats, and that's going to go around there, and that will form end up being part of the lat muscle, the lateral muscles. So we'll mark that in. And this won't be as abrupt of an edge either, so that's probably another thing that's throwing me off a little, is that this edge shouldn't be that sharp. So I think that this is not looking too bad. So we've still got some issue with the thickness of the arm in places. I think looks a bit thin. Compared to like how the arm looks, sort of from different angles, it's a little thin in places. But it is getting there. I think some of it that's a bit off as well, maybe this bicep. Yeah, something about the biceps throwing me out, or was throwing me out. I don't know. Just maybe she was had a little bit too stacked, you know. So there's a problem as well. Like, I think that this particular part here just seems really shallow. But I don't want to damage any of the stuff we've done on the arm around it, because I kind of like that. So I really kind of like the forearm. And I'm just looking to sort of fill that area out here. Like, this divot looks a bit off to me. We might lose some of the definition on the bicep. Yeah, okay, so it felt like, so here's what the issue was there. Because of this divot, it was so pronounced, it felt like there were no tendons connecting that part of the bicep to this part of the arm. And just by sort of like filling that sort of low point out, the arm already feels a bit better. So I also think, again, I might be wrong, so I can always undo it, but I feel like some of this is a bit just not filled out enough. There's not enough meat. But because we're trying to smooth that out, we've lost a bit of the bicep. So let's bring that back. So that feels a little better. We're at 12 minutes. Maybe the bicep feels a little too saggy. Like, I think maybe I put a bit too much gravity on the inside of the bicep, which is, I think, it's a bit better now that we've smoothed it out a little, but I feel like we'd probably get a bit more definition from the bicep on this side. Okay, that's not bad. So overall, the arm probably feels a little wide, but we'll that feels a little better. I don't want it to feel wider than the other arm, and plus this arm needs to be pushed here, particularly like around here where the what are they called, the triceps, here around the triceps. That's gonna be pushed up a little where the body's contacting it here, so we do have to plump this upper arm out a tiny bit, but oh, I've got the bloody wrong thing selected. But it's starting to look a bit better. Okay, so there as well, we need that just a bit more. Just a bit more meat around there. That's not bad. So I was still moving around it. I could still see a bit of sort of divots and stuff like that here. We want that to be to come down there. So what we'll end up with is like a nice little triangle shape in there that we can cut back in. Alright, we're out of batteries. I'm going to smooth this off and then I'm going to go and charge everything up. And then we'll continue in a little bit. Once we can get everything back to recording. I don't know if it's normal to have a camera that only records for like an hour or so. Maybe that's normal. I'm not a camera guy. Just a bit frustrating. I thought you could record for longer than that. And the footage, you can only record 25 minutes or so, which I also find a bit infuriating. So I feel like we need to move some of these locators that we had. Okay, so I think what we'll do, although this is only a 17-minute portion, excuse me, we're going to have to cut it off quickly and go and charge up the rest of my stuff. And then we'll come back and finish this all up in a little while. I want to try and get this video out soon because it's taking longer than I care to admit. So, with that being said, we shall go ahead, pause this for now, and we'll come back when everything's charged up. Okay, right. We were working on the hand. Let's take a little look at that. Let's have a little spin around it and see where we are with the whole thing. Not bad. This elbow still needs a bit of work here. This feels a bit like, I don't know, just not great geometry. Particularly that lump there. I think we can get away with this sort of ridge here. But I'm not sure we'll get away with all of that there, especially when we zoom out. It just feels kind of lumpy. So we'll fix that. Let's start with that and then we'll move on to the hand. So this area here in general, I think I'm just really trying to smooth it out so we've got less of that sort of like lumped up feel. That feels a bit better already. There was just like a bulge there. Otherwise it feels okay. It might be nice to continue this sort of highlight that we've got here. It might be nice to continue some of that down to the elbow. So let's do that. we'll smooth some of that back out again and just see what we've got. See, I'm really looking to just connect some of that highlight that we're seeing there. I'm using the highlights. I'm kind of using the highlights to pick out points where it might look a bit odd. So she is also going to be wearing gloves. I keep forgetting that, to be honest. So I think that we can worry a bit less about all of that, because we're going to have like material overlaying, overlapping and stuff like that. This feels a bit too much like a ridge over here. Over here. So I want to try and fill some of that in so it feels a bit less ridge-like. See, that already feels kind of better. I'm pressing a little bit more gently the further down I go, so it has less effect, and when I get to the wrist I'm pressing a little harder, because I want to not flatten this area but just get rid of some of that ridge that we can see there. Sort of redefine a little of where the muscle might end up going. Okay, that's not too bad. Let's continue. We'll fix the hand up and then we'll merge these arms to the body, because I want to get this tutorial, this section of the series done. I've got to apologise for it taking so long, because I keep getting ill. I've been unwell again. Not to sound like an old guy that's like, oh, I'm always ill, but yeah, I've got some allergies and stuff, and it's famously uncool, I know, but yeah, I've had some allergies and stuff, so I have to try and watch what I eat, and when I eat something that's wrong or has an effect on me in that way, yeah, I'm usually out of commission for a while. So these knuckles are actually not in a bad spot, to be fair. Let's undo that. We need, I think, a little bit more mesh, a little bit more geometry, because we're crumbling it down a bit too far. Yeah, it's not bad. So I feel like this hand was in a much better position for sculpting. Like, some of the other fingers were slightly, I would say, slightly misaligned or misplaced, and it meant having to sculpt them up a little and kind of work on them. We're not damaging the back of that, no. So we might use here, where are we? We might use the inflate tool here, just to kind of fill the space. will smooth that back out. We might need to remesh it. Before we remesh it, let's fill out the rest of these gaps in case we have to do another remesh. But yeah, like you can use the inflate tool to kind of just close the gaps a little, and that will be a bit easier when we come to the remesh. Some of these might need it too. You can just, you know, sculpt it up using the clay, but I feel like we did that on the other hand and it was a bit messier to start with. So we'll use the inflate tool to just fill out these areas a little. And hopefully that'll give us a bit more mesh to work with after we've done the remesh, so that we can actually sculpt these knuckles on. See, that one went kind of nicely. It merged together nicely. I think enough of it was near the surface. Excuse me. Excuse me. Right, let's give this a remesh. To see what we end up with. Actually, let's do these knuckles here. Stop growling, bro. There's nothing there. Let's turn on wireframe so we can see what happens to it. Blah blah blah. Remesh. So I'm not too worried that it's a bit higher. We can just turn that down in a little bit and or do a decimation on it. So here's a tip as well, because we inflated the inside of it. Let's go here, and if you hit separate, okay, cool, it was all one piece. So what I was trying to get to is sometimes when you do that, you end up with pieces of separate geometry on the inside. So if you select the arm here, for example, hit separate, sometimes there will be like a few little tiny pieces of geometry in here that you can delete out. Because if you want to 3D print this stuff, that might cause issues. So that's just something that's worth bearing in mind. So yeah, it's just there'll be sort of smaller pieces of mesh in there where it's merged together, and it's just there's pieces that are stuck in the center of the mesh, you know. So it'll just be a little bit cleaner, and it will save you hassle and time if you're trying to 3D print these guys. So we're also not gonna be putting fingernails or anything like that on these characters. On this character, sorry. She is wearing gloves, so we're not gonna waste too much time doing any of that. So I think we're going to do the same again here. We're going to plump out some of these areas because they the hand that we imported when we built the posable mesh. As cool as it is, it's not very meaty in places, but I think that's by design so that you have to still, you know, sculpt. Excuse me. Yeah, I think it's by design, so you have to still sculpt it, you know, and like you can't just bring in a hand that's done. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's done, right? All intents and purposes, it's done. But we've got this here going on. Yeah, it's what was I talking about? Yeah, the hand, it's not, I don't think it's like sculpted into a realistic, ultra realistic hand, or even it's just a basic hand, so that we've got some geometry to play with and something that we can pose around. But yeah, I think it's literally there just for that, so you don't you know, you can't just bring it in. You could, if that's what you want, if that's what you're going for, but you know, I don't think that's what most people are going for, you know, because we're trying to sculpt and we're trying to learn how to sculpt. So yeah, right. Okay, so that's not too bad. The thumb's looking all right. Again, like, I don't think we need to worry too much about too much of the detail. I do have a tutorial on sculpting hands, so if you want to see more about that, you could go and check that out. But again, I really just don't want to waste time sculpting fine detail like fingernails and creases in the knuckles and stuff like that when we're not even going to be yeah, we're not even going to see it, so I don't want to do that. Oh, such an itchy nose. Sort that out in there. So some of this could probably come forward a little bit, just to fill out that gap, fill out that space in there. That's not too bad. Let's move on to sorting out some of these fingers, see if we can get it done in the next 10 minutes or so. It's unlikely. We might have to reset the camera real quick. I've got such an itchy nose, it's so dry. It's from probably being cold, probably from not being well, sorry. Right, so fingers, let's do this. Try to smooth some of this out so we know what we're playing with, what we've got to work with, sort of thing. Not pressing too hard with the pen, because again I want to keep some of this definition here so I know where it is in a bit, so I can mark it back in. This fingers will probably need plumping out at the tips. Maybe a little tiny bit here as well. That feels good. We'll add some creases back in there, and we're going to call that done, because again, not to harp on, we are going to be putting gloves on this character. 2B is a gloved character. Sort out a little bit around this joint. It feels a bit like there's not enough. Oh, it feels like there's not enough meat here. It's sort of dropping in a little. That's not bad. Right, moving on. I will do this next finger, and then we'll reset and finish off the hand, and then merge the arm and the upper torso. Hopefully we can get that done in one more little set of recording. So I do apologise if I keep going quiet. I know that you're probably looking for some sort of explanation, maybe even something slightly clearer than what I'm giving you, but I do have to every now and then kind of sort of put my brain into the sculpt a little more and just think about what I'm doing, which is kind of like, you know, you'll all be doing that, or you should all be doing that, you know. Like look, I'm whenever I go quiet, it's because I'm looking at it critically, like, why does that look stupid? Why isn't this working? You know, like, with slight anxiety going off. Oh my god, I can't sculpt anymore. Type of stuff. So yeah, like if I do go quiet and you guys are finding it mildly annoying, I will say that it's literally just because I'm 100% looking at this and going, I really don't like that. I really don't like that. What am I going to do? How am I going to fix it? And it's part of the thinking critically, like looking at your work critically. It's part of that. Like, I was never really great at it. Like I explained it was either earlier in this video or in the other last video, where a guy, you know, was trying to point out all the things I was doing wrong, but trying to get me to notice the things I was doing wrong. And it's difficult if you're new, you know, because it hurts your feelings, bro. Yeah, it hurts your feelings. But here's the thing: no one gives a crap about your feelings. Most of the time in a work environment, It's about getting the job done. And no one really gives a crap if you think that your lead or your superior or whatever was a little bit harsh about your work. I find that sometimes people that are like probably what you may consider the harshest are probably the ones that want you to do the best. Because, you know, someone who doesn't care about your growth is going to be like, oh, that's great, put it on the fridge. No, that your mummy and daddy do that. Someone who really wants you to grow and succeed is going to go, here's part of the problem. Can you see the rest of it? Or why, you tell me why that looks wrong, you know? I don't feel like that's necessarily someone shirking their responsibilities as much as it is someone trying to get you to notice for yourself why it looks weird. And yeah, that's a tricky thing, I suppose, particularly with new artists. But yeah, okay. So I think we need to plump out the end of this finger a little, and then we'll stop the video and we'll reset the camera and try and start getting this thing merged together a little bit. Okay, I mean, that's not bad. The knuckle looks a bit big. But I'm not too worried about that. Again, she's going to be gloved, so I'm probably overthinking it. Right, so we're going to stop this, reset the camera, and then we'll be back momentarily. Let's save it first. Okay. Tuck in the belly a little bit. Right, let's finish off these two fingers, and then we'll see about getting this this character merged to the torso, and we'll see how we feel about it. I haven't decided whether I'm going to leave that until the end and do one video on like contact points on the body or anything like that. I might just do that, to be fair. Because then we can go on by example, one sort of contact point at a time. How we do go about merging these parts and sort of maybe in preparation for merging some of these parts, we'll add some creases. But I'm not decided whether we'll do that in this video or we'll do it in another video. I'm not sure yet. I will have a think while we're working, and we'll go from there. I'll decide from there. So this is one of those moments. The fingertip was slightly it was in a slightly weird position. So we don't want the knuckles to look like to look bulbous, right? Like that's kind of an old people thing. Like when people start to get old, their knuckles start to look big, and I think it's because, you know, a lot of the this part of the finger in between here starts to thin out and just, you know, fade away a little bit if you want. But it's just a thing, you know, like an older person's hand's going to have the knuckles looking slightly more large, just a bit more bulbous around the actual finger centers, sort of the phalanges. You know, you get what I'm saying. Like, without being disrespectful, go and look at your grandma's or your grandma's fingers or your grandpa's fingers, or it usually only happens if they're kind of thin. Like my granddad, before he passed away from cancer in the I can't even remember when it happened, like the early 2000s. He was still quite a big guy. My granddad was a big dude. So he didn't have knuckles like this. He had just like, he was one of those old guys that had massive plates of meat for hands. And yeah, he was just a big guy, you know, like, so yeah, I'm generalizing a little when I say it's an old people thing to have fingers that are a bit thick, knuckles that are a little bulbous. I'm generalizing quite a bit. But that's what we do. That's what we do if we're trying to learn. Right, last phalange, and then I think we're good to go, because a lot of the detail from this is going to be when we start sculpting the creases in the glove, to show you where it's stretching from and things like that. So as a quick example, the hand is sort of like curling under this way, the fingers are curling under that way, and the hand is going to feel like it's rocking down this way a tiny bit. So a lot of the pull from these creases is going to come from the knuckle and up and over here, and then so this one will be the knuckles pulling around a little, so there'll be creases pulling from here up across the hand there, type deal. So yeah, like I've said in a previous video, if you're sculpting clothing, look for the high points of the model, of the body, and you can pull lines. Generally, you can pull lines from there. There are exceptions to that rule. Wind might be affecting it, gravity, but generally it will be, you know, taken from a high point. If you've got like a hanky draped over this hand, taken from a high point, your creases are going to start from here, and they're going to sort of like fade out and get wider into like a pleated kind of look on the end of the handkerchief or whatever. So we might have to, some of this here feels a bit odd, and I think it's because the palm of the hand is cut into here, and there would have been a line here when we did the initial merge, which isn't right. We want the hand to feel like it's coming across there, and we want to fill that out a little bit more, because this is all going to be pulling back. The skin from here is going to be pulling over the top, and this is going to be pulling back underneath. So we are going to need to bring some of this back forward using the move tool. And just fill that gap a little more with the finger rather than with the palm. That looks a bit better. You can smooth some of that out, but that looks a bit better already. So it looks like the finger is affecting the palm rather than the palm affecting the finger. Okie dokie. So again, just pressing gently to get some extra mesh in there and smooth some of it away so that we can see what we're working with. So let's go ahead and start plumping this finger out a little bit more. So these need to be a bit wider at the tips. Then I need to thicken up this way a little bit. And I mean, again, I'm not mad at it bringing this shape in a little, because it feels like with the hands putting pressure on the, at least a little bit of pressure onto the item that she's gripping. So I want less of it here though, because this is a more defined sort of thicker structure underneath the skin. And I'm not too mad at that. We'll add some slight creases back in here so we can not lose our positions of some of these landmarks that we're looking at. And again, the fingers should be affecting the palm here, because they're squeezing in around the hand. So some of this is going to get squashed a little. So we want to keep that definition of the fingers being rounded onto the palm there like that, but that's a bit much. And this one's a bit more straight, so we can just go across. So let's go ahead and hide these fingertips here so that we can work on the palm a little more without fingers getting in the way. So again, if we look at our own hand and she's got this down, you can see that this part here is squashing in a little, so we can see that that's probably going to be a little closer to there. It's going to come round and up across there. We've got this from the bottom half of that knuckle. It's going to kind of come across there and go back down the palm. There is a slight one here, it's very faint. She's got the grip in it, so again we'll work on some of that. It's a bit more relaxed. So this skin's going to fold under here, and it's going to come from around this side here, so we'll add that crease in, so there'll be a sort of lip that comes in here and kind of goes up and under, and we'll have a bit of definition here too. That's not bad. Right, let's add some meat. And the rest of this is kind of like, so this portion is going to kind of pull down from about here, go over the top of the hand. Then we'll have, it's like a second little flappy bit of skin that goes under here. This here needs to be chunked out a little bit because there's like a pad of muscle there. I think overall that's not too bad. Again, like this is the inside of the hand. We're not really going to be seeing too much of this, so Just gently smooth some of this back over so it doesn't look so rough. And we don't want to lose too much of the detail that we've just put in, like maybe soften the edges off a little. I feel like this needs to come forward a little and go up. That's not too bad. Okay. Alright, so that's not too bad. I'm pretty pleased with that. I think let's just give it the quick once over. So I just noticed this here. Needs to be smoothed away. So we added that in earlier to kind of redefine the bone for the forearm there, and I think it's worked quite nicely. Overall, I'm not mad at that. Now just umming and ahhing about whether or not I want to wait and do a whole video on merging these meshes together, or just get some of it out of the way now. I mean, it might be a nice video to close it off with, like connecting everything together. And then moving on to the clothing. So it might be a nice way to round off that part of the series and be like, so again, like here, I'm just noticing here, this arm, there's not a lot of space there. And this is why it's worth like looking at your work critically, because if we'd merged this without noticing that, that would have been a problem. Not a massive one, because we could have sculpted some of it back in, but like, I don't think that that's what you want to do. You want to have it in a decent position in the first place. So I want to try and find the direction that I want to move this in. And it's kind of out that way. So let's look down the arm, and we'll set this pivot to somewhere close to looking directly at us. And we'll rotate. We'll go from here. That looks okay, so we'll close that. Just move that out slightly. I think it's already defined her shoulders a little more. Like we had the same issue here, and this doesn't feel as thin now, so that is a bit better, I think. Let's turn that off. That is a little better, I think. We'll have to rework some of the arm here when we come to merging it. But I think that looks a lot better. Like it just doesn't look as thin here, like in this arm. Yeah, that'll give us a lot more. That'll give us a lot more to work with here as well. Like we can see a lot more of the lat. Like for some reason that felt off to me, and well, for some reason I can see it now. But that kind of felt off to me the whole way through sculpting the body. Alright, I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. I think what we'll do is we'll do at the end of it, we'll merge it all. So once we're done with the legs, we'll start merging everything and sculpting all of the parts where there's connections. So I think we'll do that at the end, just to keep it neat for me, so I don't have to, like, here's the thing as well, right? If I merge the arms to the body now, okay, for the sake of the video, let's say, then I'm causing myself issues later, because I will attach the arms, we'll work on this contact point, we'll add the fat, we'll do all of that, we'll add the meat for the contacts, and then when I sculpt the legs and then attach the legs to it and do a remesh again, all of the detail that I've done in this crease to keep this line here defined will get wiped away with the remesh. So I don't want to keep resculpting that area. So I think what we'll do is we'll leave it until we finish the legs and we're ready to merge all of the parts together. So I think that means we are probably done here for the arm sculpts. Let's check it once over the whole sculpt and see how it looks. I mean, she looks strong. One thing I didn't want was her arms to look thin. She looks strong. She looks a little soggy here. Like it's just down a little. But overall it looks pretty good. I think we'll be able to fix some of this area here and see what we can do with this once we get the entire thing merged together, because I want to know where this pectoral muscle is going to end up and how it's going to define this shape here before we start working on here and this bit here. So I think we'll leave that. But overall, for this stage and for having the arms in a position ready to work with, I'm not too mad at it. I'll probably use this arm in the thumbnail because it just looks a bit neater. I have to be careful as well. I got my thumbnail removed last time because I showed, even though like it's an unfinished sculpture, because I think I had this in the thumbnail. YouTube was like, no, you don't, sunshine. And they told me to take it down, so I took the thumbnail off and redid it. But we'll probably do something from about here, again similar to the other thumbnail, because I can't put any of that in because they'll just tell me to take the thumbnail down again. So until that's covered, we're going to be doing shots from here. If we get to the legs, when we get to the legs, we'll have to think about what we're going to do there as well, because they might tell me off for that in the thumbnail. So it might be that's kind of strategically hidden behind the behind the sword. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out. But yeah, it's just a thinking out loud thing. I've got to be careful about what I use for the thumbnail, because I don't want to get in any real trouble with YouTube. They didn't tell me off, but they were like, you know, we understand this might have been a mistake, you might not have known, which I didn't. I just thought it would be fine in context of the video, but YouTube was having none of it. So okay, let's save it here, and I will over the next day or two work on editing and getting a thumbnail together for this. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for joining me on this part of the sculpt. Apologies for this dragging on a little bit, but yeah, we'll get to it and we'll get this finished as soon as we can. So yeah, happy sculpting everybody. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you found it helpful. And yeah, we'll jump on with another video as soon as we can. So yeah, thanks a lot everybody. Happy sculpting. I'll see you soon. Like and subscribe. Do all of that. Hit the bell. Do all of that stuff. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.